Hi, I'm Randy Altman with postPerspective. We're here at NAB 2019, and this is Katie Fellion from Light Iron. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's always very nice to be able to talk technology with a female.
Yeah, we're a rare breed.
Yeah, we are, right? So you guys have a ton of really cool projects, and you do a lot of different stuff. Why don't you just tell everybody what Light Iron is, in case they don't know?
Sure. So Light Iron is a post-production entity. We're based in Los Angeles and New York for most of our finishing services, but we're a wholly owned subsidiary of the Panavision company, so we end up doing projects all over the world.
So, and are you working on films? Is it TV, episodic kind of thing?
Primarily long-form scripted, okay. So episodic and feature films, but it every once in a while, you get into some of like the giant screen stuff and different specialty applications. And really, the biggest thing for us is always about using the technology in order to move the creative storytelling further. And that's been the thing that we've done since day one.
And that's always, you guys are always known for sort of pushing the boundaries and trying new technology, being early adopters and seeing what
breaking the rules time and time again.
Yeah, and it seems to have worked.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk a little bit about 8K and where that's going, because you're seeing some trends.
Absolutely. Well, I think especially at this show, that's something that I'm seeing left and right. Everywhere you're looking, it's an 8K display or an 8K panel, or the 8K video walls and video displays. Yep. And so it seems to me that 8K is now where we're headed, whereas we were in this 4K world. It feels the same way as where we were 10 years ago with 4K.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. So what kind of projects are you seeing being done on 8K?
Well, right now, as far as the capture, there's a ton of projects that are capturing 8K. Anything with the Panavision DXL, the Red Monstro, those are both 8K native sensors as far as the camera technology. And I think there's a few other broadcast cameras out there as well. They're broadcasting some stuff in 8K as well, mostly overseas. I don't think there's anything really in the US happening yet.
Right.
But as far as that capture aspect, lots of projects all over the world are doing that today. As far as in 8K finishing pipeline, so meaning editing at 8K or online in color and delivery at 8K. In the scripted world, it's not happening yet, but we continue to see these sort of signs of editors like Avid, like Resolve, like Final Cut, Premiere. All of these guys are actively adopting these non-standard timeline formats, and so I think in the Avid booth they're showing a 16K project. Which is 16K. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what the application is, but it's really cool that we're pushing that boundary so much further now.
Right. And what do you say to the naysayers who are like, oh, 8K, who's going to be watching 8K or 16K? This is getting crazy.
Right.
So what do you say to them? What are the benefits
for 8K?
Yeah,
and that's a totally valid question, because we get that day in and day out. And the biggest thing that I tell my clients is, even if you're not finishing 8K, which like I said, there's not a lot of applications for it other than a few panels and displays right now.
Right.
The benefit, especially with these 8K sensors, is the super sample. So you're able to capture at this larger resolution, but then we scale it down into our 4K delivery methods, and what we're seeing is a smoothness because of that over the number of pixels that we're capturing and packing into the smaller container, as well as a lot more color separation. So from a creative imaging perspective, we think it's really great. And we see the same thing when it's like a 4K for 4K, right? You don't have the same sort of flexibility, because you're just grabbing the same number of pixels that you're going to put into that same container.
Right, but it looks better because you have more information to begin with.
8K looks better.
And so going to 16K, I mean, is it the same sort of theory?
I would think so, theoretically. I haven't seen anything captured in 16K, which is something that's on my to-do list for the show, is to go around and see if I'm sure that there's some 8K plus cameras or imaging out there. And certainly, we can do it with stills already, right? You can build them at any size.
Yes.
But I would think theoretically, yes, it would be the same application. The larger image capture, oversampled, scaled down into the smaller container, is always going to yield something better.
Gotcha. Okay. So you also are seeing trends with aspect ratios. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's weird.
Non-traditional aspect ratios?
Well, and I think it's being driven by the OTT players, right? So these Netflix and Hulu's and Amazons and all of these folks that have the streaming platforms, and so they're not constrained by the traditional theatrical aspect ratios. In the theatrical world, you're primarily 185 flat or 240 scope, 239 scope, right? And in some of these new players, we already saw 2:1 becoming a very popular aspect ratio. We're seeing different variations of that, so 2.2:1, 2.18:1. There's a show that's considering a 2.76:1. And I think, again, it's people they're looking at these larger imagers, cameras that can capture more, so that you already have more resolution to play with. That's one way that it's affecting the image quality. And then a secondary storytelling tool, different aspect ratios, so that you can frame according to where you're trying to direct your viewer. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. So are you guys doing some of that?
Yes, absolutely. We had a show that came across our plate a couple days ago, and they were shooting 1.78, and we all kind of giggled about it. Like, when was the last time we saw a 16:9 capture? But okay, cool.
Yeah, why not, right? You guys can work with pretty much anything, so
it's all flexible. Yeah. And that's the great thing about the kind of the tools that we're seeing too, is that flexibility to be able to apply custom mats or custom transforms, even custom working sizes. There was in my hotel this morning, I actually saw some monitors that had been hung vertically, and which was interesting.
Yeah.
And so they're hanging from the ceiling, and they were playing content that had been mastered, obviously, for this I guess 9:16 size.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, both in the way that the storytelling was working. It was a different style of cut to display something in that sort of aspect. But I think in those sort of things, it's similar to like phones and tablets, and
people are getting used to that aspect. Yeah,
everything's not horizontal. We're getting into vertical way.
Yep.
It's changing.
Do you remember when it used to be when people would hold their phones vertically and you'd be like, no,
right,
don't do that, it hurts. Now it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's happening all over.
Absolutely, and I think we'll see more storytelling that's adopting to those sort of, we already see it with advertising that masters for Instagram, the 1:1.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's another example of having to be more creative with our storytelling tools in order to meet the display needs.
Interesting. Well, before we let you go and look at some pretty cool technology, anything else that you want to add?
It's a really cool show. I haven't been for a couple years, and it's always invigorating to come back and see some of the technology and meet the manufacturers, meet the people behind it, and it gives you new ideas so that you're able to figure out, okay, how can I take this back and apply it in my shop?
Sounds good. Katie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Randy Altman, postPerspective, NAB 2019.